Here you can see a close-up of the ceiling, showing its poor condition. There are loose pieces and a slight bow, making it very unsightly. I start by scraping off the loose pieces and making relief cuts where necessary. This allows me to use a putty knife to scrape off all the loose material, clean everything up, and prepare for the next steps. I like to paint before tiling for two reasons. First, it eliminates the need to protect the tile from paint splatter. Second, I can address uneven drywall surfaces, filling them in with drywall mud and priming them to create a flat, even surface ready for the tile. Here you can see the original drywall with its very rough condition, and there are many joints where I cut out the wall to run electrical wires, as well as missing pieces where the baseboard used to be. These gaps and uneven areas need to be completely filled and sealed with primer before tiling can begin. I use 45-minute hot mud, a dust extractor, and a respirator to avoid inhaling any dust. The dust extractor works very well, capturing the mud dust. I mix the mud to an even consistency for a base coat, which will be hidden behind the tiles, so this mixture does not need to be perfect. For large cracks, like those exposed after baseboard removal, I apply a generous amount of mud to fill the gaps and secure any loose pieces. After removing all the very loose fragments, I ensure the cracked but stable pieces are adhered properly. I also smooth out excess mud from the flat portions of the wall. To finish the ceiling, I apply a generous amount of mud along the perimeter. I use a large putty knife to reference off of the flat section of the ceiling to generate a flat and right-angled ceiling. This process takes many coats. I sand in between coats, making sure everything is nice and dry before I apply a second and third coat. Next, I measure the height and width of the wall to determine the tile layout. I also measure the height of the bathtub, ceiling, and overall bathroom width to ensure tiles are evenly aligned for a clean, professional finish. After I label the tile layout on the wall, the ceiling is now completely dry. I sand with a dust extractor and now apply a second coat. While I'm applying the second coat of mud, I'm using a headlamp to illuminate the ceiling from a sideways angle. This really reveals any imperfections there are in the ceiling, so I can fill them in with mud. To get a good look, it's important that the niche lines up perfectly with a top of a tile. To achieve this, I need to modify the niche's rough opening. With a oscillating multi-tool, I first cut out all the drywall, remove the screws that's holding the bottom plate of the niche in place, and then use a snip to trim away the stud. I am then able to relocate the bottom plate into a new lower position, screwing everything in. Tile is a material that does not like to expand and contract with temperature changes, whereas metal really does want to do that. In order to protect the tile from cracking in the future, I apply a sheet of drywall over the metal studs to make sure the tile have a very stable surface to adhere to. With the drywall work done, I'm ready to prime and paint. I begin by cutting in the edges and priming all walls and the ceiling. I use Benjamin Moore's professional primer, which has excellent adhesion and stain blocking properties. Since tiling hasn't started yet, I don't have to worry about precision along the edges. I ensure all the new and existing drywall is primed. For larger surfaces, I use a 1/2-inch microfiber roller. Even with one coat, the primer effectively hides the Sharpie marks, which are notoriously difficult to cover. While I'm tiling over the wall, the primer's performance demonstrates its high quality. Between each coat of primer and paint, I lightly sand the surface to remove imperfections. The primer not only seals the ceiling, it would also reveal any imperfection in the ceiling. Here I'm using a flashlight shined sideways to reveal any imperfections, so I can sand them, fill them in with mud, and re-prime. After the priming step is done for the walls and the ceiling get 2 more coats of ceiling paint. The walls do not get any paint because they will be tiled after. The door frame will be reused in the new bathroom. I give it 2 coats of paint to make sure it looks nice and even.